In this video, I'll discuss how to deal with two focal points, and it's in my book, Ellen's Guide to Design Elements, where I have more examples and explanations than I can provide here. The situation with two spots is much more complicated than with just one spot. In my last video, I discussed how a spot is pulled by magnetic forces from the corners, from the sides, and from the center. But now with two spots, we also have forces between them, as if there's an implied line connecting them. This is bilateral symmetry, where the spots depend on each other for balance. If the spots were separated by an interval greater than their diameters, as these are, we get a feeling of spaciousness, making the background important. As the spots get closer together, tension increases since the viewer sees them as separate, but also as one. As they get closer together, they appear more unified, but also more crowded. And when they touch, they create a new shape, so the tension dissipates. This could result in a static image or a sense of collision. In this famous painting by Michelangelo, the fingers of God and Adam nearly touch, creating maximum tension that would have dissipated had they actually touched. This design is balanced because the two dots are in the center. But what if they were placed on the side? Can we use such an unbalanced design? Well, let's say the two dots represent the house and its reflection in the lake. For this to work, the focus can't steal the show. So this has the greatest interest, but not so much that we ignore the rest of the painting. It has a narrow value range, so it doesn't particularly stand out. And there needs to be something interesting on the other side. So these large white areas balance the house since they provide strong value contrasts with the trees. In this image, the tree and its reflection can barely be seen, so they're balanced by this dark cloud and the light orange colors that form diagonals that go toward the tree. But this image is unbalanced because most of the action is on the right. In the rule of thirds, we divide the paper like a tic-tac-toe board with two horizontal lines and two vertical lines. We can place the focus at any one of these intersections, making the image interesting with moderate tension and disequilibrium. Now, putting the spot or the focus right here feels comfortable to us because we tend to read paintings from left to right, and we also tend to read them from the bottom up, as if we're lifting our eyes up from our feet as we walk toward the distance. But how far away should the spot be from the corner? Well, let's look at this rectangle here. This blue spot is different distances away from each side. It's very close to this side here and very far away from this side, for example. So it makes this position interesting. When we use the rule of thirds for a square format, however, the blue spot is now the same distance away from this side and this side. So the position is less interesting than with the rectangle. Now, what do you do if the two spots differ in value or color? For example, this blue spot attracts more attention than this empty spot over here. So balance is lost. The blue side feels heavier. Balance improves when the empty one is closer to the edge, or if the empty one is larger. Any change in the empty one that makes us interested in it. Alternatively, the blue spot could be less interesting by softening its edges or decreasing its value and color contrasts with the background. Let's compare these two patterns. So in the first one, each spot alone is unbalanced. If it were just this spot, it would look unbalanced. But together, they balance around the middle. Now, if I move them up, like I did here, still the same distance apart and still on the same diagonal, this lower one now is in the center, So it is stable, but the upper one is unstable. So together, they look unbalanced. Relationships are judged relative to the whole, not to the individual parts. This shows you the spacing and shapes of two lines and how they can differ. So think of the shapes as magnets. If they're too far apart, they don't seem related and there's no attraction or tension. If they're too close together, they appear to merge as one. If there's a small space in between, they pull on each other dynamically, or maybe look like they're squeezing this space. If they curve toward each other like this, they compress or encircle the space. If the lines arch away from each other, it creates tension as if they're pushing the space out of the middle. And then finally, they can curve in the same direction like this, like spoons stacked together. Let's go through some examples. So in this case, the two objects don't seem to interact since this gray pot is lost in the dark background, since its spout is turned away, and since it's a little too far from the cup, in my opinion. It's as if the two of them are looking away from each other rather than interacting. And if that's your message, then that's fine, but you need to know what the message is. In the second one by Van Gogh, the two objects belong together, the water carafe and the glass, and the reflections seem to bind the two of them together. The carafe is more transparent with interesting colors, while the glass has some yellow fluid, and that yellow is repeated in the background. When there are two subjects, one often dominates over the other, like this fighter seeming to have the upper hand. Alternatively, two subjects could be part of the same process, like my son pulling my grandson on a sled. Remember my book on Amazon, which is only $5, and please remember to subscribe.